The metagame in Yu-Gi-Oh! Moves pretty fast compared to other games. Through product releases, player innovations, and ban lists, decks tend to have a short lifespan or sporadic periods of success. It's rare that a deck can remain relevant for years and adapt to multiple formats, but there are a few. One of my favorite examples of an everlasting deck is Dragon Link. And it's impossible to talk about Dragon Link without the Rokket archetype. This is one of my favorite archetypes, and it has a significant place in the history of Dragon Link. Everyone knows Tracer, Striker Dragon, and Borreload Savage, but the deck comes from very humble beginnings. And in this video, we're going through the archetype and its non-archetypal support, because I really want to put some shine on the lesser known cards that held it down before we got cards like Starleech Seyfert and the Bystials. I was originally going to do this video centered around Dragon Link as opposed to just Rockets, but I was struggling to organize the information in a way that I felt was presentable, so if you'd like to see a video on that stuff, please let me know. And one last thing. I won't be mentioning every Rokket or Boral card, so sorry for the fans of classics like Mini Boral Dragon and Execute Protocols, but let's get into it. Rockets are an archetype from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns anime, and they are a series of dark dragon-type monsters who have effects that read: when a Link monster's effect is activated that targets this face-up card on the field, quick effect, you can destroy this card, then apply the following effect. And they also share a second effect which says, during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was destroyed on the field by battle or card effects and sent there this turn, you can special summon one Rokket monster from your deck, except itself. Now, not all Rockets have these effects, but this was the standard for the first two waves. These effects allow you to develop a pretty decent resource cycle among the monsters, and the first monster we're looking at is Magna Rokket Dragon. Magna Rokket can send one monster on the field to the graveyard with its effect. For me, this is the best of the bunch. Non-targeting, non-destruction, removal is pretty good. Auto Rokket does the same thing, but for spells and traps, and Anist Rokket makes one monster on the field unable to attack and its effects are negated. And the monster that was meant to trigger these effects is the cover card of Circuit Break, Borreload Dragon. Borreload Dragon is a Link 4 dragon monster with an effect that reads: neither player can target this card with monster effects. Once per turn, quick effect, you can target one phase-up monster on field, it loses 500 attack and defense. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this effect's activation. At the start of the damage step, if this card attacks an opponent's monster, you can place that opponent's monster in the zone this card points to and take control of it, but send it to the graveyard during the end phase of the next turn. Borreload at the time was an incredibly powerful boss monster, being able to trigger the Rokket monster's effects and being a form of non-targeting removal. It was really a staple of extra decks in early Link format, but that 3+ effect monster requirement has kind of hampered it in the other Link 4 Boral monsters over time. The example I like to use is Link climbing with Dark the Dark Charmer and Access Code. You can go into Dark, take something from your opponent's graveyard, make something like Selene, summon a spellcaster from your graveyard, then go into Access Code. Whereas with Borreload, you would have to go into Dark, grab an opponent's monster, then get another monster on board, and then go into Borreload. It doesn't seem like much of a difference, and honestly it kind of isn't, but it disrupts the natural Link climbing flow. But regardless of that, Borreload was awesome. Moving on to the spells, we've got the best card in the deck, Quick Launch. Quick Launch lets you summon one Rokket monster from your deck, but destroys it during the end phase. But most importantly, it's not once per turn. Just a ridiculously strong card, and it's only gotten better with Rokket Loader being announced for Burst Protocol. Really the only thing balancing this card is the fact that it's not searchable, and this is a common trait among many of the spells in this archetype. And if you think the spells can't get any better, you're right, because they don't. Squib Draw is a quick play spell that lets you destroy a Rokket you control to draw 2 cards. This will trigger the Rokket monster's effects during the end phase to replace themselves, but this is a little lackluster. If the Rockets replace themselves immediately, or you could pop a Rokket in your hand, Squib Draw would be a lot better. Circuit Break also featured non-archetypal support for the deck with cards like Gateway Dragon. Gateway Dragon for some reason holds a special place in my heart. If your opponent controls a Link monster, you can special summon it from your hand, and once per turn, you can special summon a level 4 or lower Dark Dragon monster from your hand, and that is not a hard once per turn. In an ideal scenario, you could Gateway Dragon into Gateway Dragon, into Gateway Dragon, into a Rokket, but this rarely happened. It was also a risky normal summon, as in the early Rokket decks. If it got negated, your turn was done, because at that point there was no Striker Dragon, and we're assuming you didn't draw it into Quick Launch. Sniffer Dragon was another support card which could search another copy of itself on summon. Super early builds of the deck would play Sniffer Dragon with Inferno Reckless Summon to get bodies on board, but this was not ideal. So as you can see in the early stages, the deck was kind of terrible. Summoning Borreload Dragon required too many resources for the deck, and even when you could summon it, you used up so many resources that you didn't have a Rokket monster in combination with the Borreload Dragon's effect. The deck wasn't fast enough, but it had massive potential. In the following set, Extreme Force, we received two more Rokket monsters with Metal Rokket and Shell Rokket, which had similar destructive effects to the previous ones. Metal Rokket destroys all cards in the same column, and Shell Rokket destroys the monsters in the same column, as well as the monsters in the adjacent zones. But most significantly in Extreme Force came the new field spell Boot Sector launch. This spell has an effect that reads, all Rokket monsters you control gain 300 attack and defense. You can only activate one of these effects. Special summon up to 2 Rokket monsters with different names from your hand in defense position, or, if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, special summon Rokket monsters with different names from your graveyard in defense position up to the difference. This gave the deck a way to spam Rockets from the hand, and gave the deck a way to fight from underneath, which was vital. And the stat boost was also very helpful for grind games. The final highlight of Extreme Force was Triple Burst Dragon. Its effect wasn't outstanding, but it was another option in the extra deck, and in the long run, Triple Burst became a key piece of the puzzle. Even after Extreme Force, Rockets were still struggling to get off the ground. Shell and Metal Rokket gave the deck more utility, but they didn't add consistency or raise the ceiling. The next couple of cards were released in multiple sets between Extreme Force and Savage Strike, and they're some of my personal favorites. Defrag Dragon was released in Flames of Destruction and had an inherent summoning condition allowing you to discard a card to special summon it, and its effect can banish 3 monsters from your graveyard with the same name to summon itself back. This effect didn't come up much in Rockets, but it was useful in other decks like Thunder Dragons. Defrag Dragon wasn't a spectacular card, but a special summon from the hand that was basically free was huge for the Rokket deck, as it really struggled to put bodies on board. Another card featured in Flames of Destruction was Background Dragon. It is a level 5 Dark Dragon monster with an effect that reads, if this card is in your graveyard and you control no cards, you can special summon both this card and one level 4 or lower dragon monster from your hand in defense position, but banish this card when it leaves the field. I absolutely love this card, and for this time period I forced it into every Rokket/Dragonlink deck that I could. It was a brick if you ended up drawing it, but I usually played it with 3 Dragon Shrine and 1 Foolish Burial. Similar to Defrag Dragon, this card isn't spectacular, and it's probably worse than Defrag 2, but a way to get bodies on board was desperately needed, and both of these cards provided that. In the months following Flames of Destruction, Battles of Legend Relentless Revenge and Cybernetic Horizon were released, and featured new alternatives to Borreload in the form of Borrelsword and Borrelguard Dragon. Everyone knows Borrelsword. It's a game ender, it can attack twice, can't be destroyed by battle, it can get really big, but around this time, people were calling for it to get banned. In hindsight, it seems a little silly, but if your opponent dropped this card, the game was pretty much over. Borrelsword's link arrow placement was also a strength, as the 2 down arrows were in adjacent zones. Now we move on to Borrelguard Dragon. Borrelguard is the red-headed stepchild to Borreload and Borrelsword. Its effect reads, cannot be destroyed by card effects. Once per turn, you can send 1 card from your spell and trap zone to the graveyard, special summon from either graveyard to your field, 1 monster that was destroyed and sent there this turn, but its effects are negated. Once per turn, quick effect. You can target 1 monster on the field, change it to face-up defense position. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this effect's activation. Its effects really aren't that bad. The ability to switch monsters to defense position, combined with being protected from card effect destruction, made Borrelguard difficult to out, but it never really saw much play and was pretty easily forgotten. However, I think it's significant in the story of the Rokket deck, as it was significantly cheaper on release than Borreload and Borrelsword. If you were playing on a budget like me, you needed Borrelguard to trigger the effects of your Rokket monsters unless you were playing Underclock Taker. I'd say all 4 of these cards were a step in the right direction, but the following year is where Rockets began to take off. February of 2019 saw the release of Savage Strike, and this marked a turning point for the deck. We received the tuner monster Rokket Synchron. which could summon level 5 or higher Dark Dragon from your graveyard when it's normal summoned, before locking you into Dark Extra Deck monsters. And the intended use was to synchro summon Borreload Savage Dragon. Borreload Savage is the guy. The best card in the deck, it's kind of the face of the archetype, and it's so good that it's banned. It's basically a free Omni Negate. There isn't much to say. Borreload and Borrelsword were strong, but this card was a true boss monster. Also, I feel for anyone who waited till Rarity Collection to pick it up, because it got banned pretty quickly after that. I know at the beginning of the video I said that this video was more Rokket focused than Dragon Link, but it's impossible to not talk about the Guard Dragons, which were also released in Savage Strike. The Guard Dragon Link monsters can summon dragon monsters from different places to zones 2 or more Link monsters point to. LP can summon from the hand or deck, Pisty can summon from the graveyard or banishment, and Agripane can summon from the extra deck. LP and Agripane are both banned now, and will probably never come back, but this trio was insane. Agripane in particular was crazy. If you think Crimson Dragon is strong, this card is maybe 10 times stronger than that. Structure Deck Rokket Revolt was released in August of 2019, and like Savage Strike, it made massive waves. There were some great reprints like Quick Launch, Boot Sector Launch, Red Reboot, and Common Borreload Dragon. But we're here to talk about the new cards, and it's best to start with Rokket Tracer. Rokket Tracer is a level 4 tuner which says, quick effect, you can target one face-up card you control, destroy it, and if you do, special summon one Rokket monster from your deck, except Rokket Tracer. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except dark monsters. The quick effect pop is incredible. You're usually destroying your field spell, but you could also chain Tracer to a spell or trap to pop those, and you weren't losing card advantage. Tracer is a 1-card Borreload Savage, and it's what allows Rockets to be an engine in Dragon Link. We also got Silver Rokket Dragon, which operates like a traditional Rokket, with the Its effect allowing you to look at your opponent's extra deck and banish a card from it. This is really good. Getting to banish one is great, but just getting the knowledge of what your opponent is playing is super powerful. And the last new Rokket of note was Rokket Recharger. If a dark monster you control that was special summoned from the extra deck is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard, then target one of those destroyed monsters. Special summon one dark monster from your graveyard with a different original name from the targeted monster. While you control a dark monster special summoned from the extra deck, your opponent's monsters cannot target this card for attacks. A form of recovery and protection was needed in the deck, and Recharger fit that slot perfectly. The next monster isn't a Rokket, but it may as well be. Absterrator Dragon can special summon itself from your hand if you control a Rokket, and if it's sent to the graveyard, you can add one Rokket monster from your deck to your hand. A perfect card in my book, and was excellent as discard fodder, as well as a dump off of Dragon Ravine. Quad Burl was a new Link 2, which could destroy a monster on the field, and if you destroyed a Link monster, you could special summon Rokket monsters from your graveyard up to its Link rating. This card is pretty good, and it's especially strong if you made it with Delingorous Dragon. This card actually came out prior in Dark Neostorm, but started to shine post Rokket Revolt. If you special summoned a Rokket monster while this card was in your graveyard, you could summon it back, but you had to banish it when it left the field. So ideally, you'd use Delingorous as material for Quad Burl, pop Quad Burl with its own effect to summon 2 Rockets, and summon Delingorous. And finally, the new fusion, Borreload Furious Dragon, and its spell, Rapid Trigger. Furious is similar to Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, as its quick effect allows you to target a monster you control and a card your opponent controls and destroy them. It also has a graveyard effect allowing you to reborn dark Link monsters. And the fusion spell, Rapid Trigger, allows you to fusion summon by destroying monsters from your field. Furious is great, but Rapid Trigger not so much. The monsters having to be on the field is a little rough, and also the monster you summon can only attack monsters special summoned from the extra deck, which isn't bad, but it's something you have to remember during the game. Finally, in October, we got the last piece of the puzzle with Striker Dragon. It's the Link one that searches the field spell. Pretty basic, but essential to the deck. In my opinion, the release of Striker Dragon marks the true birth of Dragon Link, although the Guard Dragons probably have a stronger case. It's the Link one that you make at the start of every combo. We did have LP and Pisty, but you wouldn't want to make them immediately. White Dragon Collapse Serpent into Striker Dragon, into Boot Sector launch in Black Dragon, into Romulus to search Dragon Ravine is a bread and butter combo. The first time I saw a competitive version of Dragon Link have success was in early 2020 with Xu Pingzhu's first place UDS list. He also included cards like Starlight Seifert, which also came out in Chaos Impact, and Unchained Abomination, which had strong synergy with the Rokket cards. Nocto Vision is a pretty crazy extender. It can special summon itself when you special summon a dark monster, and you get to draw when it's used as link material. Double Disruptor can tribute itself to special summon 2 Rockets from your graveyard, and can banish itself to search Heavy Interlock or Rapid Trigger. This card's a little weird, but I mention it because the 2022 French Nationals winner, Matthieu Bricard, played this in his winning list along with Rapid Trigger. It's a very interesting deck list, and I've left a link to it and Xu Pingzhu's deck list in the description so you guys can check them out. And the last shoutout goes to the appropriately named Boral End Dragon, because if you summon this card, the duel is probably over. Boral End came out in Ghosts of the Past 2 in 2022, and after the Savage ban, this card became a more important endboard piece. A monster negate that also revives Rockets, on top of basically being invincible and being able to attack all monsters your opponent controls, is ridiculous. It is a Link 5, so it does take some work to make, but it's worth the resource investment. Burst Protocol is up next after Doom of Dimensions in the OCG, so we're far out in the TCG, but we have gotten the reveals. I won't go over all 8 cards, but the highlights include Rokket Loader, which can search a level 7 Dark Dragon monster, Double Trigger, a fusion and a ritual spell similar to Miracle Fusion, and a Boral Shroud Dragon, a Link 5 Omni Negate, which can also summon a Link 4 or lower Boral monster from your extra deck. And I've left a link in the description to the rest of the cards if you want to take a look at them. But the future looks very promising, although the main criticism I've heard about the deck is it doesn't fare well against Fualos and Droll. These are valid critiques, but most decks struggle against these cards, so I wouldn't consider them a deterrent from playing this deck. The feeling of seeing your deck get better over time is very special, and that's something I experienced with Rockets. It didn't start in a great place, and truthfully, we don't know how good the new stuff is going to be until it comes out, but I'll certainly be there for the journey. But that's the video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. What do you think about the Rokket deck, or Dragon Link as a whole? Leave it in the comments below, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.